All right, we are now recording our first Tech Tip Tuesday for our non-techies, talking about Google Calendar and how to subscribe to other calendars. So I'm going to start sharing my screen here. If you have questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask them, or you can put them in the chat. You'll find the chat at the bottom of your screen. There's a button for chat. If you click on that, it'll open up a screen to your right and you can type in questions. You can either send them to the whole group or you can send them just to me, either one. But I keep an eye on that as we're going along here, and I'm happy to answer questions that way. Or like I said, you can absolutely unmute yourself and help. I'm gonna go ahead and hit mute all right now. We've got some feedback coming in. You will be able to unmute yourself. Okay, so let's walk through how to add another calendar, how to subscribe to a calendar in Google Calendar. So I am on just a blank, I use Chrome as my browser. I don't know what browser you all are using. I highly recommend Chrome. It tends to have the least amount of problems when you're working in Chrome and using other platforms. There are some browsers that you just have some inherent issues with some of the platforms that we use. So I recommend using Chrome. I'm gonna go, we wanna get over to Google Calendar, and I can get there two different ways from this screen. The first thing that you always wanna check when you come here, and this is on Chrome. I'm not sure where it's at if you're on like Safari or Firefox or Internet Explorer, but I wanna look right over here on the upper right, and I see that I'm logged in to my Kansas City Homes account. We're actually gonna log out of that. I wanna switch over to my dummy account. But you wanna make sure as you're going into Google Calendar, as you're going into Gmail, as Drive, always look in this upper corner if you're having issues to see what account you're logged into. If you have multiple Gmail accounts, you might have to click on this and switch to another one. So I'm gonna switch right now to my, this is kind of my fake agent account that I use for training. So you can see that that picture has now changed. Don't worry about, I did a session the other day with somebody else that was getting really confused about this icon up here. I don't know if you can see where my mouse is up there, but that icon versus this one, this is the one that we want to worry about. So this way, when I go to Gmail, I'm going to click into Gmail right now. It'll open my Sam Agent Gmail and not my Christian at Kansas City Homes, my regular email. So again, if I click on that, I can go to my other email, but I'm going to stick right here. So I mentioned there's two ways that you can get to your calendar. First way is back on this main browser screen. You've got your waffle right up here. This gives you access to all of the different Google G Suite products. So you can click on the waffle here and you can go to Calendar. And your Google Calendar will open. Right now it's defaulted to my Christian Barnes, and I want to be on this Sam Agent. Now I'm on Sam Agent. Her calendar looks a little bit different. The second way that you can get to Calendar is through if you're on Gmail, you've got the waffle up here as well. So you can click on the waffle and find your calendar and click there, and it'll open your calendar in a second browser window. So a couple of just functionality things with Google Calendar. Over here on the left-hand side is Sam's calendars. So we've got Sam's personal calendar right here. And then if I want any birthdays that I put in, reminders, etc., I don't have any in there on Sam, so I'm going to uncheck those. If you check and uncheck these, any events you have on those will appear and disappear. You'll see down here in other calendars right now, we've got Easter up here. If I uncheck that, it's going to disappear. So if I just want to look at my personal calendar, I want to leave that box checked. So I want to add the Engage training calendar to when I open Google Calendar, I want to see the Engage training events that are going on. I can get links right into the Zoom. I can get the registration links if I need to. So I'm going to walk you through adding, subscribing to the training calendar. So over here under other calendars, we're going to click this little plus button to add a calendar. So I'm going to click my plus, and then I want to browse resources. I want to look for a calendar. So I'm going to do browse resources. This gets a little confusing. We don't want to subscribe. We want to browse resources so we can find the calendar. So you'll have some different resources that might come up here for you versus Sam. These are the resources within the Kansas City Homes platform that Sam has access to. So the Engage calendar sits under corporate because I want to make sure that agents from every office have access to this. So under corporate, I'm going to click the down arrow here, and these are the calendars that I could subscribe to that are under corporate. The Engage calendar is this one right here. It's corporate, the Engage training and events. And I'm going to click this box right next to it, and this is going to add all Engage training and events to my calendar. This is also where you can find, I told you I would show you where you can find your office calendars. If your managers or admins are using Google Calendar, this is where you would be able to subscribe to those Google Calendars as well and put those events on your calendar. So under College Boulevard, that's the vacation calendar. See if any of these have the office calendar. Leewood, I've got access to their conference room reservation. Sam doesn't have access to a whole lot here.
I didn't know how to use it, so now I know how to add it.
There you go. I know Michelle is on here. I don't think Steve is on here, or Christy, but I know Christy actually uses the Google Calendar quite a bit. Some of it is just the agent permissions that I have on this account. So again, yours might look a little bit different, but I've checked this box next to Corporate Engage Training and Events. So when I'm done here, I can go ahead and hit this back button up here. Right now I'm in my calendar settings, and I want to hit this back button to get back to my calendar. And all of a sudden, Sam's calendar looks a whole lot different than it did when we first came in. She's now seeing all of the Engaged training events that are scheduled for this week. So if she doesn't want to see these and she wants to just see her schedule, from this view right here, she can uncheck that, and that way it doesn't cloud up her calendar. When she wants to see it, she can check it. Now, I will tell you, you're not going to be able to make changes. This is a view only for you all. You're not going to be able to make changes to this calendar. If I make a change to one of these events, if I have to move the time or the link changes, that's going to show up right here on in these events on your calendar. So I know some agents and some of the managers, like Christy, for example, in the Northland office, was taking the Engage training calendar and she was copying the events over to her calendar. And when you copy them, if I make a change to it, you're not going to see the change. So I know that's a little bit more advanced, but just want you, if you, in the past, if you copied events over versus subscribing to a calendar, you really want to subscribe. That way, if any changes are made, it's going to populate over here on your calendar. But now when I open these, that one doesn't have a link in it, but let's look at the LinkedIn class tomorrow. If I click on this, I can get the details here of when this class is. And then when it's time to come to class, I can just click this link and it'll pop me right over into Zoom. I try my best on these. I'm the one that updates and maintains this calendar. And I try my best to put on here any links or any important information you might need about this or about the events. So tomorrow afternoon, this is an event that's happening, which should be phenomenal. I highly recommend that you attend this one. Lisa, I will absolutely walk through it again. But like on this one, you've got to go through the greenhouse to get there. So I try to put whatever method you need to get into events, I try to put them right in the details here. Okay, let's walk through again how to, I'm going to delete this calendar. I don't want to see it anymore. I'm going to walk through again from scratch how you add this calendar. So I'm going to hit this X. As I hover over, you'll see I've got some options. I'm going to hit the X. We're going to remove that calendar, and we'll kind of start from scratch again and walk through it. So right down here under other calendars is a plus button. We're going to hit the plus, and then we're going to go browse resources. And this gives me the resources that I have available. I want to go under the corporate one. So I'm going to click anywhere up here on the corporate, and it's going to expand this for me. And I want the engaged training and events. So I'm going to click on that one. And then once I've clicked on that, I can hit this back arrow and I now have it down here in my list. You can, Patty just asked in the chat if she can add a reminder. That depends on your calendar settings. Let me see if it'll add reminders. I might have to add that on my end for you all to get reminders. But oftentimes if it's on, I subscribe to several calendars, and if it's on my calendar, depending on how I have my notifications set up, I will get the reminders. Let's click right here on settings. So I came over here, I just hovered on corporate engage, the training calendar, and I've got these three little buttons, and this gives me a couple options here. This is where you can change the color. So if I want this to be green for BHG, I can change the color of it by just, again, I hovered over, I'm clicking those three dots, and then I can pick whatever color I want to. If I want to add my own custom color, I can. But let's go to settings here and see what our options are on notifications. Here you go, Patty. You can, under settings right here, you can add notifications. So you can opt to receive notifications from this calendar. This is for yourself. This is not for, you're not changing anything for anybody else. This is just your settings that I can change, and I can say I want notified anytime there's an event. I want notified a half an hour before.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You are very welcome. So you can be notified down here, other notifications. When I add new events to the calendar, you can be notified via email. If I change an event, you can be notified via email. If I cancel, typically I don't put guests on the Engage calendar, so you probably don't need to do event responses. If you do, and I ever do put guests on there, you're going to be flooded with emails. Don't worry about any of this down here. But you do have some options. Again, I'll show you how I got into these settings. I hovered over the calendar here, and I clicked on these three little dots, and then went to settings. I can actually rename this if I want to. If I don't want corporate at the front of it, if I just want to do engage training and events, I can click right in here and change my view on the calendar. Again, these are for your settings. You're not changing it globally. So now when I come back, oh, it didn't change it. Let's see what happens when I hit refresh. It might not allow you to change the name. Oh, there it is. It does. So now it doesn't have the corporate in the front of it. It just has engaged training. Okay, I'm going to stop and answer any questions or go back and show you how to do this again. If you need me to, feel free to unmute yourself, or you can pop a question into the chat as well. But what questions do you have? I must have done a really good job explaining it if you don't have any questions. Okay, so how do I get a full view of the calendar now? Sue Ellen, can you unmute yourself and explain a little bit more what you're asking?
Can you hear me, Christian?
Yeah, I can hear you great.
So when I'm looking at my laptop, I see a horizontal picture of you and the calendar, but I can just barely see the calendar. So it's not covering my whole screen. I don't know what I'm doing, but it's really hard for me to see what you're doing.
Okay, so up in the top, the very top of that screen, there's a little green bar that says, it should say like Christian is sharing her screen.
It says you are viewing Christian's screen.
Okay, right next to that is more options.
Yes.
Click on more options and click on side-by-side view to basically to uncheck that.
Okay, got it.
Full
Yeah.
screen now of my screen.
Okay, thank you very much.
You are very welcome. Meg, you can't add just certain events. It's either an all or nothing. So what you can do though is, if I want to come over here and I want to add this to my personal calendar, if I know that I'm registered for this event, I can hit this copy to Samantha Agent, that's the calendar that we're in right now. And I'm going to hit save. And now this has created a copy of it onto my personal calendar. So whatever events that I'm interested in going to, if this is a little too busy, you can always just click on this, and I'm going to give you my little speech again about copying things to your calendar. Those are the things that I want to go to. I'm going to hit save. And now if I uncheck engage, I'm just seeing the events that I want to go to. Now, what happens though, if you do this, is if I make a change to this event, if I have to update the link, or we're going to change the time, it's not going to change on your personal calendar. You're creating a copy of it over to your calendar. It's not linked. So if I make a change and I don't know that you've put this on your calendar, I have no way to notify you that there's a change being made. So I would just caution you on this to make sure that if you do this, you're still clicking this box and checking to make sure, okay, Christian has not changed that Ninja, link is still the same. But that is a way to do it, which really helps. I'm going to show you what my full calendar in my real account looks like. Having the opportunity to uncheck stuff over here really keeps me a little bit more organized. This looks, I know to some of you, like a disaster. But if I start checking all of these calendars up here, these are all, I've got subscriptions to a lot of the office calendars. And if I start clicking on those, holy moly, that's really, really crazy. So I can unselect those and decide which ones I want to see.
Christian, it's Lisa Rubin. I have a question. How do you toggle back and forth between a monthly, weekly, and daily view?
Yes, so right up here at the top, in the upper right, this is where you can go and opt how you want to view. So if I want to just see the day, I can do that. The week, the month, the year. If I just want to see Monday, a 4-day, next 4 days, I can see that.
Okay,
But right up here, you're welcome. Right up here, kind of your settings. If you menu over, and let's say you're trying to plan a vacation or family get together, something in July. And so I'm going to go over. We're going to go by month, and I'm going to slide over here to July, and I input, an event, and I hit save. If I need to go back to this week or today, I don't have to keep hitting that back arrow. I can skip to today by hitting this right up here, this little today. This will put you right back here. Another kind of little tip with Google Calendar.
It's Lisa again. I have one more.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sorry, Christian. I use my phone, the calendar on my phone. Is there a way to link the two?
So are you using, I'm guessing that you're using the native calendar app on your phone.
Yes.
Okay, so it should sync with, once you add, if you're pulling in your Kansas City homes, does your calendar app on your phone pull in from kansascityhomes.com?
I think so.
Is it synced with that account? Then if you subscribe to these other calendars, it should be showing up on your phone as well. I decided, just for ease of use, that I don't use the native calendar app on my phone. I've downloaded Google Calendar on my phone. And the reason that I do it that way is I can easily toggle back and forth between, I'm going to see if I can't screen share up to here and see what happens. Hold on just a second. No, it's not going to let me do it. I was going to show you on my phone, but the view looks very similar, just obviously a smaller version on my phone, but I can easily toggle back and forth on calendars. So if I don't want to see all the engaged stuff on my phone, it's easy to delineate between those on your phone if you're using that Google Calendar app. I've not used the native calendar app for quite a while, so I'm not sure how easy it is to do that, or if you can do that using that native calendar app. But they should talk back and forth regardless of what calendar app you're using on your phone, whether it's a native one or Google Calendar.
Do you have to add that calendar here for them to talk to each other?
You shouldn't have to, no, as long as you're, are you talking about getting the engaged, those events or a calendar you're subscribing to, or your personal calendar?
It's probably my personal calendar that's on the phone that, is the iPhone.
It should, as long as you're using, you're logging into that, your settings on that are pulling in from your kansascityhomes.com, they should go, you should see anything that you're putting in here in your Google Calendar on Kansas City Homes, you should be seeing that on your phone.
I'll try it.
Another little shortcut that I was going to show you with Google Calendar is when you're in your Gmail. If you're using Gmail, I prefer to use Gmail, the web version, just like what I have pulled up on the screen here. I showed you that you could get into Calendar by clicking on the waffle up here and then going to Calendar. Another way you can easily look at your schedule and get into Calendar is right over here on the left or on the far right hand side. You've got a couple of options here. If you don't have Calendar here, go to this plus button and you can add the calendar from this screen. But if I click on the little calendar icon, I know it's teeny tiny, it'll bring up a little preview section for me of my calendar. So if somebody sends me a meeting invite, or we're trying to schedule something, I don't have to flip back and forth between my calendar and my email to figure out what I have going on. I can open this little preview pane right here and I can skip to that day. I don't know why I'm in January right now, but I can skip to the day here. I do not like this view. I want to see the day. So I can skip to this day and see if I've got anything scheduled that day, and then go ahead and I can put it in right from here. So if I want to look at it on the full calendar view, I can hit edit in calendar right down here, and it'll pull it up in my full calendar view. But it's a nice little shortcut to not have to go back and forth, especially when you're trying to schedule meetings and appointments. Hey, Carol. Okay, any other questions about any other things I can help you with on Google Calendar? I will show you one other thing here that's pretty handy when you're in Google Calendar. Let's go back to Sam's calendar. It's much easier to look at. So if I want to add I have one on my personal. So if I'm Sam Agent, I use this calendar for all of my business. Everything I'm doing real estate wise, all those appointments live on my Sam Agent calendar. I want to create a calendar that's just family events. And doctor's appointments, personal stuff. So you can add as many calendars as you want to here. We're going to go to the plus button right here, just like we did earlier. And we are going to hit, instead of browse resources, which is where we went before to add the engaged calendar, we're going to do create new calendar. So I want to create a calendar, and we're going to call this Sam's family calendar. All I'm going to do is title it. I'm not going to put in a description, and I'm going to hit create calendar. I get this little pop-up down here that tells me it was successful. I'm going to go back. And then I now have Sam's family calendar. The reason that I like this is I can add, my husband and my daughter can subscribe to this calendar. So we can keep track of all of our family events at one place. They can add things to it, I can add things to it, but it keeps it separate than what I'm doing work-wise. And if I need to see, you know, I can click on both of these to see, okay, what appointments do I have this week for work and personal? And if I just want to see, okay, what do I have work-wise this week? I just unselect that one and just get my work appointments. I know it's hard to tell right now because I don't have a lot of appointments on here. But if I needed to add an event to the family calendar, if I could spell, right down here, I want to add this to the family calendar. And I see the difference in color right here. That's kind of my cue as to which calendar I'm adding stuff to. And I hit save. And now this event is added to my family calendar. So again, if I want to toggle back and forth and see, okay, what personal stuff do I have this week? I can click and unclick these for different calendar views. Okay, that's as far as I'm going today with Google Calendar. I probably went further than I had anticipated. But I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here just for questions. But that's really all the content that I want to cover for you today. And now I'll just kind of open it up for questions. And you know, if you need me to repeat anything, I'm happy to do that.
Okay, this is Norma.
Hi, Norma.
Hi. I have a question. If I want to say duplicate something for 3 weeks, so I'm reminded every week until the event happens, can that be done?
Yes. So let's play around with this. I'll show you how to do it in this family calendar event. Actually, we'll start from scratch. Let's say every Friday for the next, is it an appointment or is it just a reminder?
It's a reminder of a closing in 3 weeks.
Okay, so I'm going to double click here. You double click on the calendar to add an event. And we are going to, let's see. I'm just going to call it Smith closing on, what is the date? Oops. We'll just say May 17th. You can put a specific time in here. If you want it just to be an all-day event, more of kind of just a reminder, you can do that. If you want it to repeat every Friday for the next three weeks for it to come up on your calendar, you click right underneath right here where you're setting your time. You can hit that it repeats. So I want it to repeat weekly on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
This is, I'll show you this real quick too when I drop this down, what your options are. This is a great, if you're putting birthdays in, right here, you can have it repeat annually on April 17th. So if today's somebody's birthday, April 17th is, and I want it to remind me every year, I can do that right here. But these are the defaults, and then if you want to do a custom, you can do a custom repetition, have it repeating.
It's similar to the phone then.
Very, very similar.
Yeah.
Very similar. So I'm going to set it down there, and then I put free there so it doesn't look like I'm booked all day long. And then I'm going to hit save. And now it's right up, see where it sits right up here on the top?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't put a time into an event, it's going to sit, if it's an all-day event, it's going to sit right up here on the top of the day.
Okay.
And the reason that it does that is because I put in this free. If I put in busy, I'm going to do it just for this week. Oh, it actually didn't do it. It still kept it up there at the top. Okay, that's good. Disregard what I just said the last 10 seconds. So now it's here. It's the following week. I've got it now every week.
And now it will show up if I go monthly up there. You'll be able to see it.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. Right here, if I want to delete this whole event, I can hit delete right here. And it's going to ask me, do I want to delete it just this week or all of the recurring events? I want to delete all of it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let me look in. We're here in. Okay, so Meg, I think you asked, oh, you found it. Okay, good. Very good. Meg was asking how she gets the little calendar icon right over here. Meg, did you just hit the plus button to get it up there?
Actually, it was there and I just didn't see it.
I was going to say it should be there automatically. I think that's a default.
Well, I was looking under calendar, not under my email, and it didn't show up under calendar because.
Yeah, it won't show up in calendar.
So, thanks.
Okay, Jamie asked a question. Is Google Calendar in Central Time Zone? It should, that you're going to access that in your settings, the time zone. You've got a couple of options. So to get into your settings, right up here, the settings cog is right here. And you've got your time zone, which you can either click here, it's right here. I have this box checked when I travel. And I take my computer with me, it's gonna ask me if it wants to update to the current time zone. So if I've scheduled, like when I travel to conventions and whatnot, if I have scheduled a bunch of stuff, I want it to show up on my calendar in the current time zone, not what I scheduled it in. But right here is where you can set up your default time zone. You've got all sorts of default options in the settings tab. All sorts of good stuff in here. Okay, any other questions about Google Calendar? All right, I am going to stop sharing my screen here. Hold on just a second. Okay, what do you think? Was that basic enough? Was it okay for you?
Basic enough, good.
Okay,
Yeah, I thought it was perfect. Thank you.
very good.